so quickly at his earned revenue, it has surpassed the first one.
Really? It's a big deal.
It is a huge deal in this day and age.
As is.
Not to get on a tangent right before we
No.
start.
This is what the show is. Friends and enemies, folks of all kinds. This is Alfred Jetsam coming to you with NerdPod Generation, episode 144. As always, I do not do the intro. That is Steve's job. But if I'm doing it, that means that Steve's not here. But you don't have to just listen to me this time. This isn't one of those solo shows because my lovely wife Kelly is here. She's gonna give some perspective on things that we've talked about,
Heck
and
yeah.
we're gonna talk about this year's big summer thing. For like last year there was Barbie and Oppenheimer. This year there's The Boys, which neither of us are interested in.
Nope.
And Bridgerton.
And Bridgerton.
So we're going to talk about some Bridgerton.
Yeah.
But we have some other stuff to talk about first. But before we get into that, let me introduce my lovely wife, Kelly.
Hello, friends
is-
and enemies.
This is Kelly.
I've been on a couple times before.
Yes, she's been around. She's our resident Lord of the Rings expert, among other things. But you have a wide variety of things that you love.
I do.
You're all into any kind of thing, from
I am.
Disney through...
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm big into animation, not just Disney though.
Yeah.
Like, I've pulled us through a few Ralph Bakshi movies, which has been very interesting.
You introduced me to Ralph Bakshi, but you also introduced me to Laika.
Yeah.
So for every Ralph Bakshi, which like Fire and Ice is still, it's a very silly movie, but I like it a lot.
It's so fun. It's
but-
just fun.
But like all the Laika movies we've only watched because of you. So
Yeah, God, and Cool World.
yeah,
Cool World is a drug trip of a movie.
I was about to say it's a trip.
Yeah.
It is a fucking trip.
Yeah. But yeah, I also really love Bollywood, which is part of why Alfred watched RRR and thus Steve watched RRR.
Yeah, so you have Kelly to blame for whenever
Who knows?
Steve brings up RRR. Whenever like the 9 times a year that Steve is like, "Oh, and then I watched RRR."
It's just, it's nice to have something you can always go to that you enjoy.
I'm
fully
glad
agree.
that
that is what that is for Steve.
As a man who has come to grips with the notion that the best word for it is obsessed with Spider-Man,
Yeah.
to say nothing of superheroes in general, I agree. When you like something, might as well like it.
Yeah. But I like a nice variety of things, and I sometimes don't judge it as harshly.
No, that is one of the things I do like about watching things with you, is that you will kind of, especially when we're watching things that you aren't necessarily deep in the fandom of.
For sure.
So when we were watching The Acolyte,
Yeah.
or when we were watching some of the superhero things that we were watching this year,
Yeah.
or when I was playing Guardians and I was getting frustrated and you were watching.
The fun part isn't getting enjoyment out of things that you get frustrated by.
No.
The fun part is when I am also frustrated and I don't even know it on as deep a level,
Yeah.
and I find those moments to be really fun.
Those are the funniest moments
It's
to
like,
me.
oh, this is really bad.
Oh, yeah. No, I get it. This is terrible. You had that with Obi-Wan a few times.
I'm gonna justify your oh no.
Yeah. I remember watching Obi-Wan with you a few times.
And I was like, what's
happening?
I don't know shit about Pokemon, but what is happening?
What is going on? Can someone explain this to me? Pokemon is a newer one that you've gotten into in the last few years.
Yeah, that really started with Arceus.
Yeah.
That game, I just delved so deep into it so fast.
You shiny hunt like a way that I see clips online of, like, how to shiny hunt.
Yeah, I do. It's so fun.
But that you're a Nintendo person in general because you also love Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I have my cousin whose name is Steve, ironically, to thank for that.
Cousin Steve, not host Steve.
Yeah, we had like some computer games, like I played Sims from too early an age, but we didn't have a whole lot of other like consoles up until probably like 4th grade when my sister and I got a Game Boy Advance to share and a handful of games, and it was like, here's your Christmas present, enjoy. It's like, hell yeah. We also shared an iPod Nano for several years before I ended up getting my own, and my sister kept using the other one.
You got a Touch, right? You finally got an iPod Touch.
I eventually got an iPod Touch. So I had a dumb phone and a smart MP3 player.
We were all there as teenagers, and God
So I
willing...
had 2 devices that I would just haul around with me.
Listen, this is my plan for our children. I think we can agree with this, is that we grew up in an age before smart devices, and we don't intend on giving... This is the folly of planning, but we don't intend on giving our children smart devices before like 10, 16, maybe even. But we'll see how that goes. I did want to also mention Animal Crossing, because like you are one of the more passionate people about Animal Crossing in my life.
Oh, I love it. I can also thank my cousin Steve for that. And then when I got to college, I bought myself a 3DS because that's something I really wanted because all my friends had one, and that was, there's I don't remember what it's called anymore, but you would walk past somebody that also had a DS, and you do the little games. It was so nice to just carry your DS around a college campus and like get all those passerbys, because everybody's got their DS on. Because it was fucking 2013, 14, and SUNY Purchase. Yeah.
Well, and when, as you know, me and Kelly met at Purchase, Friends and Enemies, for anybody who doesn't know.
At a film screening.
Yeah, of Citizen Kane.
Citizen Kane.
Hosted by Peter B. himself, Peter Bogdanovich, Captain Ascot.
Yeah. And I didn't even know who the heck that was at that time. Yeah. I literally went, I was 17 years old. I was just starting my first year of college. I was free for the first time, and it felt very odd. And I actually moved to campus early because I had to take some placement exams. But it was like late September 2012, and I was like, oh, there's a showing of this movie Citizen Kane. I keep hearing that that's like one of those movies you gotta see. I'm just gonna go and we're gonna see how it goes. And I ran into we had some mutual friends that were also attending.
Yeah.
And they knew each other. And then the 4 of us were kind of hanging out talking. And we got to sit next to each other during the movie. And we have sat next to each other for that movie many times since.
That and Kill Bill.
Yeah.
I think those are the 2 movies.
Yeah. Kill Bill is when we started dating.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say, so the distinction is, we got to the end of that night, and I said, I really like this girl, and you gave me your Facebook because that was the time. That was, as was the fashion at the time.
This is for Citizen Kane.
Yes, for Citizen Kane. The first night that we met, and I went home and I looked you up, and the first thing I saw was, oh, she has a boyfriend. The second thing I saw was that you were 17 and I was 25. And I thought, we're going to put a pause on this.
We're going to put a nice healthy barrier and it was only a few more weeks before I was 18.
Yeah.
But it was still that kind of ooh.
I think it was maybe 10 days until you were 18.
Yeah.
Because I think we met on the 27th, and then your birthday is on the 7th.
Yeah.
So it's not that long at all, but there was definitely that moment of let's pump the brakes, guys. Let's hold on a second. And to anybody who's worried, we did not start dating until Kelly was 19. But again, coming up on 20, because it was the summer before you turned 20.
Yes.
So everything is above board. This is not one of those stories.
Nothing happened.
This is not one of those dark origin stories where you're like, oh, not them too.
Nope.
But anyway.
So we watch a lot of stuff together.
Yeah. Well, so I watch a lot of stuff, and I drag Kelly along for it.
Yeah. Not for everything. But I'm here for a solid.
Yeah.
I want to say maybe half.
When Disney Plus first came out, and I decided I wanted to relive my childhood and watch Gargoyles. Kelly sat and watched all of Gargoyles with me.
God, what a treat.
Right?
That show was so fun.
And so it's always a good time because either she gets to watch me be annoyed at something, or she gets to watch me genuinely enjoy something. Or we have a moment you haven't finished it yet, but we started Time Bandits yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And it
looked really fun.
Yeah, we were both just kind of oh, this is interesting. And then, you do the inevitable look up, and of course it's Gilliam. And you're like, oh, this answers so many questions.
Yeah, Gilliam.
So, but it's always a fun adventure to have those moments with you.
Yeah, but the other fun thing is, because this is, Nerd Pod Generations, I feel like you guys lean into how you guys grew up on different stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a bit younger than you are, so some of what I grew up with,
I think
I was a little young for some of the stuff you had, and you were too old for some of the stuff I had.
I think the best example is
getting
SpongeBob.
I was going to say, getting to show you SpongeBob is such a treat, because then you get all of the jokes, and you're like, oh.
Well, it was always funny because SpongeBob for me came out right as I was finishing my Nicktoons run.
Yeah.
And so I just finished being really into Rugrats and
Rugrats.
Rocket Power and a bunch of other things. SpongeBob came out, and I remember watching like the first 3 episodes and being like, I think I'm too old for this, because I was like 13 and I was like, boo. But the nice thing is that gap that we were just talking about means that I'm at the high end of the millennial and you're at the low end of the millennial.
Yeah, which is really fun.
Yeah. So you got me into TikTok before anybody else did.
I got to keep you updated with what the kids are talking about.
The talking about.
Yeah.
The kids are talking about.
But yeah, we have a fun show planned for today.
We have a great show planned for today. We usually do watch, play, read, but we're going to do a different version on that today. So what I'm going to do is, I'm a nerd, so I write down everything I watch. And so
I know.
Kelly's
it's
well
awesome.
aware. But the result of which is that I want to go through some of the high peaks that we've talked about this year, that I know Kelly has seen, and get her opinion on some of these things that we watched. So I want to start with something good.
Okay.
Let me start with something we haven't finished yet. Do you have any thoughts on Baldur's Gate? You played a lot of Baldur's Gate 2.
Yeah.
Not Baldur's Gate 2, Baldur's Gate as well.
Yes. Baldur's Gate, the newer one that everyone's talking about.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah. I do enjoy it. I have seen other people play the PC version. We have the PS5 version. It looks a lot easier on a desktop kind of version.
Yeah.
As opposed to the odd system with the weird menus that you have to do for the console.
The wheels are so frustrating.
I can't. I mess up so much and I click the wrong thing. I'm like, why? The controls are not super intuitive.
No.
I don't like it.
The first, I remember like the first week we were both playing it, we both know D&D, but we would forget about
I'm not bad into D&D.
Well, but like we know the basic concepts and rules, right? The measure, how it goes.
I know
pacing.
how to play. I don't know the lore.
Right. But like you know enough to know like you know what an opportunity attack is.
Yes.
So like that was my big thing, was that the game didn't remind you of opportunity attacks clearly enough, and I felt like I would always like be like, oh, I'll walk over here and I'll get hit with an opportunity attack. I'm like, well, if I had known that I was gonna, I wouldn't have done that then.
Yeah.
And so I just need like a Brennan Lee Mulligan at my arm being like, you will incur an attack of opportunity. Oh, okay, then I'm gonna do something else.
Yes. Sometimes I need a little bit of hand holding.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So Baldur's Gate.
But that said, the stories and more specifically the characters are just so fun.
Yes.
You can really tell that creative team poured a lot of heart and, you know, all kinds of goodness into it. And the actors are so good. You got Neil Newbon, who is just a treat in everything he's in.
That's another thing that we should mention. Detroit Become Human.
Yeah.
That was another one that you were big into. And
very.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I bought that game for you.
Yeah, I know.
Because you were really into the original short, and I also really liked it. And we were back in the Bronx at this time, and I saw a copy. It like come out fairly recently, but I saw like a used copy and a GameStop. I was like, oh, I'll pick this up for Alfred, and I'll have him like, oh, it's so cool because it's the thing that, you know, he wrote like a storyline about, and now it's here. Let's see how it works. And you were like, oh, like I'm too tired to play it. Like you play it if you want. I'm like, all right, cool. And I play it. I'm like, oh shit. I think I love this.
Immediately pulls you in.
Yeah.
Like grabs you with 2 arms and pulls you in.
Yeah.
No, the thing for me was always like, A, I was tired that day, but also B, I had that moment. I was still recovering from knowing that this was
the fact that it exists.
Well, like, because I didn't know that this was a thing.
Yeah.
And so I watched the short, and then I went to college, and then I wrote a screenplay based on the short, and then everybody loved it, and I tried to make something similar to it for a while, and then I decided, this is too much trouble, and I don't have time, so I put it away. And then I'm sitting down.
And then Quantic Dream is like, here you go.
Did you know we were still working on this? And so I swear to God, we were watching the Game Grumps play it.
Yeah.
And we got to the scene where they introduced Kara, and they were going through, and I was like, oh, this is funny. This is just like my screenplay. And they're going through, and
I remember
weirdly
you like
my
stormed
screenplay.
out of the room at one point.
They said, what is the name of your robot? And I was joking like Kara, and they were like Kara. I was like, okay, what the hell is going on? What the fuck is happening? But
we knew it was.
I didn't.
No.
I had no idea. Coming into that, I had no idea that that's what that was. So it blew my mind in a few ways. But I did like that. Did you watch Palm Springs with us?
Yeah. No, we watched it together.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah, you liked Palm Springs.
I loved Palm Springs.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was such a good... There are so many rom-coms that are... I don't know. They lean too heavy on the camp in certain ways that are kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
And that one was such a nice... Oh, what's the word? It was very, I think, authentic to millennial relationships.
I agree.
If you're in that situation, that is... Oh, the way they just bug each other was really funny.
And I think that it's very millennial, that it's like you find this person that you like, but the real thing that you connect on is that you're both stuck in this doomed eternity. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, well, they're here. I guess we'll do this together. If we have to. I guess if we have to, at least I got a buddy.
Yeah.
So, but I loved Palm Springs. I thought that was really good.
So good.
This is going to test your memory a little bit. Lupin the Third, the First.
That was the
CGI animated Lupin the Third.
I asked you to watch that for so long.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
That's why I wanted to bring it up.
God, it was so lovely.
It was really good. I really enjoyed it. It had a lot of those feelings of a Lupin movie.
Yeah. It's so rare that animation hits that perfect middle ground between making something that was like originally in a 2D format and that almost kind of rubber band style and putting it in 3D. And they're like that canceled Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner movie. I forgot about that. Was gonna lean super hard into that style. That was gonna be so awesome.
Mm-hmm. That was an interesting one.
There was so much of Lupin the Third, the First that was just so lovely, and they got a lot of the original people back for it, which is so nice. To like, even the guy who did the music, I think, came back.
Yeah,
and that music is so freaking fun.
Well, it helps hold the whole thing together because it gives it that same sense that you had in the original.
There's so many things that contribute to setting the scene and setting the tone.
Yeah.
You got color grading, you got production design, and sound design is a huge part of that, but the music is like, I think, the most important part, at least for folks who are hearing and watching movies. It's it really sets it up for everything, and a bad soundtrack really ruins something, and a good soundtrack is there just enough. Mm-hmm. It's not in your face. It's not underneath what you can really pick up on.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's always it elevates everything that's happening.
Yes.
So you look at, if we're looking at something more recently, I think if we look at some of the pop songs in Barbie, as an example.
Oh, yeah.
Where those songs not only set the tone, but they become an entire part. It's not a character in the story, but it is definitely a supporting role in everything that happens.
It really sets the vibe.
Yeah, always important.
Yeah.
That's why I always call out Marvel and I say, do better with music, because having boring, bland, nothing music, that does nothing for anybody. Do you want to talk about Boy with Funny Hat? We watched that this year.
Oh, I always want to talk about Boy with Funny Hat. For those of you who don't know what Boy with Funny Hat is, it is a classic Bollywood movie from the 90s. The actual title is Dilwale Dulhania Le Jayenge, which translates to The Brave Heart Will Get His Wife, kind of. That's sort of the translation of it.
The abbreviation is DDL? Is that
DDLJ.
Right? DDLJ.
Yeah. And it is at least in India, I don't know if it is this worldwide, is the longest running movie in theaters, because I think it is still playing. it just is constantly playing in some movie theater it is always on like a TV channel.
Yeah, there's always an audience that will watch it.
Because it's the cultural equivalent for us Americans. It's like Titanic. It's like the movie from the 90s that everybody latched onto.
Yeah.
And it's so lovely and charming, to the point where it is referenced in other movies, which is always such a blast.
That was still one of the funniest things you ever showed me, was we watched I always call it Boy with Funny Hat, DDLJ. Then you showed me the movie that's a parody of it.
Yeah.
that does like shot for shot recreations of some scenes.
All of the scenes with the train, for those of you who've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. All the scenes with the train and they're and running to each other. It's just so fun.
Yeah. So, but I always love watching Bollywood. I was bummed out because we tried to have a Bollywood date night last night, but I fell asleep because it was too long a week and I was too tired.
Yeah. Plus, Bollywood movies are 3 hours long.
Well, it was just funny because we were watching Indian Fast and the Furious, or Doom with an H.
Yeah.
And you liked it. You watched the whole thing. You liked it.
I had such a blast.
Yeah.
It was so good. I think you only missed like 1 or 2 other music numbers.
Maybe. I really don't know how much of it I made it through. I'm going to be fully honest with you. I don't know that I even made it through the first hour of that movie.
But it was so fun, and I'm excited to watch the sequels. They're all on Amazon Prime if anyone wants to check it out.
Yeah. We're going to plug Amazon Prime in hopes that Mr. Bezos gives us money, or at least redistributes wealth to people that need it.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about Wish at all? Do you have any thoughts on Wish?
We can talk about Wish. Wow, Wish was an experience.
Yeah.
I like to give every movie a chance because there are some movies that other people can't stand that I end up really loving. And I was like, I've heard what people's complaints are about this, and I went into it, and I came out with more. Yeah. I came out with so many more complaints.
Yeah.
We were just talking about music being a huge part of it. I can see what they were trying to do with the music, but it did not land. Those songs, they're not like repetitive Disney chorus, like all the kids are gonna be knowing every word. No. These lyrics are stupid.
They're very forgettable.
It's so forgettable, and it's part of it is because of the music team that worked on it. It is pop songwriters.
Yeah.
And what's so nice about like all of the favorite Disney classic movies with the good soundtracks, what do they all have in common? They have musical theater writers. Mm-hmm. People that specialize in that style.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it good.
You need
it is so much more conducive to good storylines.
You need the movie, you need the lyricists who bring people from across the country to New York just to see this one show.
Yeah. If you want to do fucking music videos, like Fantasia style, let's animate pop songs, sure. Get those people, set up that vibe. It'll work, like, maybe set up like a nothing plot kind of thing and establish it as that, mm-hmm. and have these pop songs. It does not work for Disney movies like this.
No, there's a feel.
And Chris Pine's song was so disappointing, and I was so excited to have him as a villain.
They had this whole thing with mirrors that they weren't even hinting at, that just kind of kept on coming up, and then it ended up being this big thing in the end.
Well, it's not so much a fan theory as pretty much confirmed. The thing with Magnifico at the end of the movie,
when he's trapped in a mirror. Oh, does he become the magic mirror in Snow White?
He becomes the magic mirror. They have like reference to it. Which, if they had leaned into that at a better angle, I would have been so much more down.
Yeah.
If you're gonna set it up as being in that universe, lean into that.
Lean into it. Do it.
I'm just saying, Magic Mirror is from... You made this whole deal about how it was the 100th anniversary, right? And we're gonna go all out with the Disney references
for this. So many references.
Why not... When Tangled was getting released, they specifically marketed it to not be shown as a musical. So when people showed up, people would bring the whole family, not just the girls. But it worked so successfully, and everybody loves it, and it's a good time.
Yeah.
Why not have leaned into putting it in that Snow White universe?
Yeah.
Pay homage to the first film, because this is 100 years and all that stuff. And then really lean into that ending with this villain being the magic. Why didn't you go that route?
That's actually a flavor that this movie desperately needed.
It needed something. It needed some kind of payoff.
Well, and they couldn't decide what they wanted to do. So I still remember when they told me that it takes place in the Mediterranean. I was like, hang on, time out. What are we doing?
That was such a mistake.
And then you have the tour guide, and I was just like, I feel like I'm losing something. But if you had attached it to Snow White in that way, it would have created this nice through line that
Yeah,
would have
even
allowed
just
all
like
these things to work.
little sprinkles that it was somehow in this universe.
Yeah, and don't have Peter Pan literally show up
Oh
at the
my
end of the
God,
movie.
that was so uncomfortable. I'm not kidding. That I was like, okay, like we need to stop and reevaluate our decisions here. That was so stupid.
Why are we doing this?
That was so dumb.
It's so uncalled for.
Okay, cool. So this takes place during World War II? Is that what we're going with?
Yeah, how's that gonna work? How's that going, kids?
Early 1900s.
Yeah, still, the Great War.
Yeah.
Pick one of them.
Yes, the Great, yes.
Um,
but like, man, yeah. So that's my feelings on Wish.
I did want to ask you about Monkey Man, because we both really like
Oh
Monkey
my
Man.
God, that was such a good time.
Yeah.
That was just a good time in general at that theater.
Yeah.
But that movie, there are few movies that make me that I am literally jumping out of my seat because of what is happening on the screen.
Yeah. Well, and I think a great tell for it is that this is a very bloody, action heavy, action
Even you had to
forward.
cover your eyes for some stuff.
And you don't always love high blood content movies. So the fact that you were so into it,
Yeah.
it reminded me a lot of Upgrade in that way.
Yeah.
Of like, the violence enhances the movie to the point where even Kelly is like, no, this is amazing.
Yeah. I am very much in that camp of I have a really hard time with heavy violence and gore in movies unless the movie itself is done really well.
Yeah.
So like the It movies.
Yeah.
They are so scary, but I can sit with it and deal with it because of how well crafted everything is around it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's very much how I feel with Monkey Man. And man, can we talk about how this was Dev Patel's directorial debut? Are you kidding me?
And writing.
And he wrote it? Why are we not giving this man all of the money to make all of the original plot lines for so many things?
That is the one thing that I think now that we're months
Give this man a Star Wars series.
Right? Now that we're months out from it, I'm like, this is the most incredible part of this whole thing. Is not only is it a great movie, but this is created
original.
whole cloth by Dev Patel. This isn't even like based on a legend or something. This is just like, he just did it.
Yeah.
He just came up with this story and he did it.
And it's amazing. And it has kind of Kill Bill vibes, which,
Definitely.
As we mentioned, we really love. But the way it kind of references these other action movies, and not like directly reference, but like uses some of those flavors.
Yeah.
And it's because those flavors work really well.
Yeah. In the world of standing on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah.
It does that, but it doesn't try and be like, look at me, I'm so tall. It says, look at how far we've come, and brings that all to here.
And that's something we lose in this era of so many remakes, is we could just have the really nice flavors of the things we like. We don't necessarily have to redo the whole thing.
No. You want to capture the spirit of the thing. You don't want to make it you don't want to go full Psycho and do a shot-for-shot remake, but you also don't want to do what The Acolyte is doing and just wander so far from the original source material that it almost feels like you're making fun of the fans.
If you're going to take someone else's source, someone else's IP, someone else's universe that they've spent love and sweat and tears on, do right by it, please. Please?
WB,
Pretty please?
buy Harry Potter from J.K. Rowling so we can move on from that mess too.
Yeah.
But I just love the artistic nature of Monkey Man 2.
So, and a really great snapshot of culture and of the very much dichotomy between rich and poor, and kind of also good and evil.
Yeah. I think we can both agree, though, that the one thing that we found infuriating is that he has this monkey mask that he bleaches white, puts it on for 5 seconds, then immediately takes it off.
It's like, oh, okay.
All right. Weird flex, but okay.
Would have been... That is truly my only complaint, because the movie's called Monkey Man.
Yeah.
Like, you made this whole thing out of... You had the shot of him bleaching it.
Yeah.
And then it's gone in like 5 seconds. I was like, what is the point?
Why did we do that?
Why did we get rid of it? It's gone.
It was so cool, and it was here for
so
5
cool.
seconds, and now it's gone.
Oh, God, what a great movie.
Yeah, no, I love that movie. That's still one of my highlights
movies
of the
like
year.
that, please.
Do you have anything you want to say about Invincible Season 2? You watched it with us.
I did. I don't have anything of significance to say.
I didn't think so. Do you have anything you want to talk about Ted Lasso? Do you have anything you want to note about Ted Lasso?
Ted Lasso's been really fun, and my supervisor at work also really likes Ted Lasso, so it's nice to have like a thing to talk about. But it's kind of an interesting thing to talk about because it very much talks about that relationship between like workers and bosses.
Yeah.
In so many different contexts, like working on a team, but also managing others, and like when is it right to lie about something to protect someone?
Yeah.
And another just what I love Ted as a character because Ted is my favorite flavor of character. He's just a good bean who's kind of stupid.
Yeah.
And those are the best.
Well, and I love watching your reaction to the female characters interacting.
The best portrayals of female friendships, and also like, you know, female conflict.
Yeah.
For sure. Rebecca is such a lovely character, and I love that actress, and it's nice to, I don't watch a lot of stuff with her in it, so it's nice to see something with her in it.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Well, and I love that episode in season 1 where we meet her best friend.
Yeah.
And you have that kind of, the three of them together kind of going out on the town.
Oh my gosh.
And it's so lovely.
And Keely's so fun, and she has like just the right amount of, I'm going to use me being a woman for evil. And I mean that in the most best way possible, of like, men are stupid and they want me for my body, so I'm gonna lean into it because it just shows how stupid they are.
If they want it, then fine. I'm gonna get something out of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna play by your game because you kind of deserve it.
You kind of brought it on yourself. You put yourself in this situation.
But yeah, Ted Lasso is really fun.
Ted Lasso's been great. I have 3 more that I want to hit.
Okay.
One, I wanted to get your opinion on Paddington, because I think that has been one of the most weird movies we've watched this year.
Oh, man. After years of being told we need to watch Paddington, we finally did it.
Yeah.
I'm so glad we did. What an odd and charming movie.
I think that's the best way to put it. Odd and charming.
Yeah.
You love it, but there are definite moments.
Like the whole beginning sequence where we're in South America, I was like, I wasn't expecting this.
I didn't know we were going to go to
I don't think
Peru.
I'm mad about it, but yeah, I was like, what are we doing in Peru?
Yeah. No, the thing that always gets me is just the slapstick nature of it.
Yeah.
Because it just comes out of nowhere sometimes.
Paddington's got kind of an oopsie nature to him.
Yeah, and it's just like, I admittedly don't remember the books extremely well from when I was a kid, but I don't remember
I was going to say, I also don't remember this. I remember being a poor little bear who's lost in Paddington Station.
And he has a family.
He gets a family, and it's super cute.
Yeah, that was it.
He has a little outfit, and my sister and I definitely had a little stuffed bear with the little outfit.
Yeah.
It's really cute.
I had a Winnie the Pooh. No, I love Paddington, but it is such a strange mixture of things.
And like the really lovely but sometimes surreal artistic choices with like the house coming apart like a dollhouse. And I know you talked about the cool spiral staircase effect. And it's like, God damn.
Wow.
We're just leaning hard into this.
And then there's a scene where a bear uses toothbrushes to clean his ears.
Oh.
And you're just like, this is the same movie though,
but
right?
You're also sitting there and he puts them back and you're like, oh no. That is not Schrodinger's toothbrush.
That's
the other
Chekhov's
one.
toothbrush.
Chekhov's toothbrush, thank you.
Chekhov's waxy toothbrush.
Ugh. Sorry, Chekhov.
You don't have to bring up both, but I did want to give you a chance to talk about Godzilla Minus One and Shin Godzilla if you want.
Ooh, that was such a fun double feature too.
Yeah.
That was a really nice, like, it's a Saturday, it's summer, like, let's watch some popcorn movies. And it's so interesting how 2 movies that are generally about the same subject matter can be so radically different.
Yeah.
And the ways that they show the destruction is super different. The ways the characters try to address the situation are so different.
I hadn't thought about that, but that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Because the characters in Shin Godzilla are all these governmental figures.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, in Godzilla Minus One, it's just the people.
Yeah. God, Godzilla, I'm so glad I finally got to watch it because I heard a lot of good things about it. And that was a movie that, because it came out the same summer as Oppenheimer, that was a movie that a lot of Japanese people really clung on to because Oppenheimer was so powerful or so huge in the movie theaters, but understandably makes them very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And here you have another movie that's not only a huge part of their culture because, you know, it's very much a Japanese thing, that whole character and storyline and everything, but the way it was done was so impactful and was really kind of not mirror image, but like
It's like reverse reflection.
yeah, very, very much it filled a gap that needed to happen.
Yeah.
I think.
And I think having it be so about civilian life and trying
Yeah.
to...
And just the imagery of living in that utter destruction and the spoiler alert, the ending where the woman is alive and you're like, wait, for real?
What? What?
Are you sure he didn't die and he's imagining this?
Are we sure? But are we sure? Can we get another check?
I remember when we were watching that the first time, and that shot of her just getting fucking ripped off screen.
Yeah.
That was really difficult.
It was visceral.
It was visceral.
It made you feel very upset.
And you know, she probably traveled, you know, thousands of feet in the matter of seconds.
Yeah.
She was not okay.
No.
I do not believe she should have survived that.
I think...
Unless she landed in a mattress truck or something.
Yes, she lands in Bob's big mattress truck.
The whiplash alone, like, I wish they established more of what her injuries are.
Yeah.
She should have had a completely broken spine.
I was going to say, they should have had her, if they wanted to bring her back, because
Full body cast.
I think that this is the complaint that all three of us really have for the movie. And the only real complaint we have is that she probably shouldn't have survived.
She looked okay.
She was way too okay.
What?
Make her like a paraplegic or something.
Yeah.
Something.
Like, I understand some time has passed, but dude.
Come on.
Dude.
Yeah.
That explosion killed thousands of people.
This is like an 18-month recovery kind of thing.
Yeah. To get maybe half as good as she looked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise,
so anyway,
amazing movie.
Really amazing movie. And Shin Godzilla, I recommended to coworkers because it was interesting to see how when there's too much overhead, too many people with fingers in the pie, it just becomes a problem.
Yeah, it's no good for anybody. Everybody suffers.
And the worst of the problem is the people who really don't know what they're talking about thinking that they're right.
Yeah.
Which we have a huge problem with in general nowadays.
Yeah.
But
confidently wrong used to be a comedic thing.
Yeah, but I like there's the one scene where the scientist is like, hey, like, we think this might be the case. We're not quite sure, but can we wait to say anything until we know? And the politician was like, no, we need to make an announcement. I'm going to say it's this, even if we're wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that's a terrible idea.
And then it becomes a comedic
And then
effect.
it becomes a huge problem.
Yeah. Well, it becomes that moment that I laughed at.
Like, almost immediately, it's like, nope, that's disproven.
Well, he's like, it can't come on land. Sir, it's coming on land right now. What? So it was a little hammy. The last thing that I wanted to touch on is I wanted to give you a chance to talk about our beloved Dropout, and I also wanted to give you a chance to talk about our time watching movies on TV.
Oh yeah,
in the hotel, because I think that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so we'll start with Dropout, who's having just the best year as far as new content.
Yeah.
My God, like Fantasy High was super good. VIP is on the for-year consideration for Emmys. Game Changer, also on for-year consideration for the Emmys. Even Sam is trying to get himself up as a game show host, which I think is fantastic.
Yep.
It's so great to see how far that realm of people have gotten.
Yeah.
Especially considering where they were this time 4 years ago with COVID. Really, I think it was the decisions that happened to get it to where it is now are so... It was such a butterfly effect, and I'm so thankful.
Yeah,
because when we started watching Dropout last year, especially when we lost Wilson, that was such a lifeline to have all of that content to just put on when we were so absolutely depressed.
To be able to bury ourselves and make some noise.
And always being able to laugh at something.
Yeah.
that was in whatever we were watching.
It is by far the hardest I've laughed on a consistent basis ever. Like, period.
Oh my god.
Like,
it's so good.
I love the Marx Brothers and I love the Cornetto trilogy, but the fact that I can every night of the week anticipate that there will be something that will make me laugh for at least a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Even if whether it's breaking news, which is only 10 minutes long, or a fucking 4-hour episode of Fantasy High.
Yeah.
Something's gonna make me laugh.
And I like how they do their schedule.
Yeah.
Like some of the longer stuff is like every other week, or Fantasy High because it's like a plot thing they do every week, which is nice. And then you have like the talkback episode the next day. And it's so worth the money.
It's so good.
And if anyone's interested in getting Dropout, if you buy the full year subscription, you get a bit of a discount, which is what we do.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely worth it.
I think you get like a month.
It's like 10%
Yeah.
off the whole, which is, you know,
Not nothing.
10% ain't nothing.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing I wanted to bring up was that they're giving comedians and would-be comedians a chance to do stand-up. So Hank Green just did his stand-up bit.
Yeah, it's the first of several stand-up shows that they're going to be, that they recorded, you know, live, and they're going to have up on the streaming platform. And Hank's was so lovely.
It was.
And they did such a good job.
Yeah.
Like, I think they mentioned in the behind the scenes that they hired, like, another company to help them, like, shoot everything.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, a totally different animal from what they usually do. But, man, did it pay off.
They did a great
It looked
job.
so good.
And Hank is, like, it's not one of those things where, you know, anybody who's under, I guess at this point, 37
Yeah.
knows who Hank Green is.
You should at least.
And or should have at least passed him at some point on
Yeah.
their time on the internet. So to see him doing such excellent comedy, it reminds me of what Sam said, which is like, how did you come to us with this thing fully formed?
Yeah.
Like, it takes people years to get to this point.
Yeah.
And you did this in like 6 months.
And to be fair, like, Hank has been making comedy and content in general for a while.
Yeah.
Like, there are some aspects of it where he knows what he's doing. But he mentioned that he, like, went to, like, somebody who helps people with stand-up routines to, like, workshop everything. And, God, it really paid off. And it's so nice to see Hank Green doing well. Just as a human-to-human kind of thing.
And I will always be grateful, not only that Hank Green is still around, but also for, I don't know how long butterflies live. I do.
Yeah, God. Just so many little Hank Greenisms of like, oh yeah, that's still you.
Yeah. I will say, Zoomers and Gen Alpha, look up Humpy Hank. You won't be disappointed. And then I just wanted to touch on, while we were in the hotel, we watched a few movies. Sorcerer's Apprentice, My Cousin Vinny. It was very interesting watching movies off TV again, not just because of the commercials. I had forgotten that to get through some scenes, they'll actually make the film go a little faster.
Yeah, that was really goofy. But also seeing where they cut for commercials sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, was this the okay, all right, I guess we're doing this.
The one that I found so funny was when we got through most of Sorcerer's Apprentice, but then we had to walk the dogs, and so we leave to walk the dogs, and we come back.
It's like, oh, hello.
We only missed like one segment, and it was like, huh, all right. So I can kind of guess what happened in between.
Yeah, we didn't miss that much.
Yeah, we didn't actually miss that much, but it was just so funny watching it at like 1.5 speed at times, so that they could get through some of the action sequences.
It was really
it was
great.
just very funny. But yes.
What a joyful movie. Oh, and My Cousin Vinny.
And My Cousin Vinny.
Oh,
always such a good one.
Such a classic.
Always such a good one. And, you know, this was one of the ones that was back in the day when they would redub for TV in the first place.
Yeah.
So it had that kind of charm to it, too.
Yeah.
Of just, like, you can say when someone said fuck or shit. It's not there anymore. And you're like, all right. So, but that was great. That was a great trip. That was a great trip with you, where we watched Smarty Pants.
And you too. Oh, another amazing Dropout show. So good.
I still can't get over Paul Rubolino's suggestions for the human body.
Good Lord.
Got so out of hand.
Zach Reno
so
talking about the
fast.
ocean.
Yes. Oh, God. I think Kimia Pahormia's piece on the WNBA, much like Jess Ross's piece
gosh. So real.
The wrestling. I think that's like a real reason to actually watch those things.
Yeah.
Like a lot of these are jokes, but then some people come in and they're like, no, but this is like an actual argument.
This would be a great show to show in like a media literacy kind of class.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating.
This would be a great show to show in, one of those classes that's supposed to prep you for this kind of thing, for like giving presentations.
Yeah.
Like this is like, you just show this at the beginning of the semester and you're like, okay, so this is a funny presentation, right?
Yeah.
But
they're doing it really well.
They're doing it incredibly well.
Yeah.
So this is what we want to see from everybody the whole year. And if you don't have to start here, but we're hoping everybody can end here.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I think we should talk about Bridgerton.
I think we should too.
I think we should talk about some ladies and some gentlemen and some Tony Bridges.
Tony Bridges!
Tony Bridges!
One of my favorite things about watching stuff with you is our hilarious commentary and banter while we're watching stuff.
Well, and so it's this is my favorite joke from watching Bridgerton, because Bridgerton was that thing that floated around for years that I heard about but never watched, and you watched, but I didn't watch with you.
And I only just watched it more recently.
Yeah.
So I watched, they made a prequel series that dropped last year, which I watched, and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun, and like I kind of see, I know the plot lines of the different seasons.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like, this is this person, and oh, this is kind of fun, this is cool. And then there was all the hype for Penelope this season. I was like, oh my god, there's a lead plus-sized redheaded woman at the focus of this season. I gotta watch this. This is so amazing.
And I gotta say, having watched all 3 seasons, there's definitely, they all feel like the same show. But the 3rd season, having the lead be somebody who's not a Bridgerton, specifically. So she's trying to date a Bridgerton, but she's not a Bridgerton. But she's still a character we know extremely well from the rest of the series. That was so different than so many shows I've seen.
Yeah.
And so well done. And Natalia?
Nicola
Coughlan. Nicola Coughlan. I always get like Natalie, where are we going? No, Nicola Coughlan.
Yeah.
Amazing job.
She's so incredible. And her range is so fantastic.
Yeah. I still love when TikTok serves me a clip from Dairy Girls, and I'm like, oh, hey, you. How's it going?
Yeah. And it's so funny because I always thought she was super young because she was in that show. No, that show is just really good at having adults that look like teenagers.
Yeah.
In like the opposite way that U.S. movies and shows do it.
It's an anti-90210.
Yeah, like they look disheveled and like they don't have their shit together, and it works so well.
Yeah.
No, she's like 35. It's like, how the fuck?
Yeah.
Also, huge props to, the creative team that for so many years made her look so young, and then in this season she does her whole glow up. They have a new showrunner for this season, which has been kind of controversial because she's made some decisions that some people aren't a huge fan of. But to be fair, she did so right by so many of the themes of this season that, I never read the books, but I've heard that is not necessarily a requirement for this show, because there's a lot of stuff this show does that is very much not in the books.
Yeah. Well, and I like some of those decisions because they...
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah. Well, I love the decisions like... we talk a lot about how they kind of play with historicalness of it. And as a result, they basically do that so that they can have a wider diversity of people.
Yeah.
And so I like having the Kate in the 2nd season.
Yeah.
Where they changed her character just
enough. Yeah, she's Sharma instead of Sheffield.
Yeah, exactly. You can still see where it came from, but it also still feels like this authentic new thing as well.
Yeah. That's one of those things where this is the difference between adapting something for the sake of adapting it or adapting it with love.
Yeah.
Love doesn't necessarily have to be, I'm going to stay 100% true to this thing. It can also be, I am taking this thing that a lot of people love and I'm doing enough to it that new people are going to enjoy it, but the people that like the original thing are going to have plenty for themselves.
And it does a lot when... I'm not sure if this is necessarily true of Bridgerton, but in my experience with fandom, it does a lot when a real fan come in and make a thing and pay homage to the things you like and fix the things you found frustrating in the first place.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing.
Yeah.
And I wish I saw more of that these days.
Yeah.
There's stuff to fix. You can change things. It's not that you can't change things. You got to change the right things.
Yeah. And it's, it has that level of rom-com targeted toward women, almost the same flavor as like Mamma Mia. We're like, we're not taking this too seriously.
Yeah.
Like, we are here for like the very theatrical drama of it all.
Yeah. This is not a straight period piece.
But it works really well in this context.
Oh, it's great. It's very entertaining
so
in this
fun.
way. It actually reminds me a lot of Game of Thrones in some ways.
Yeah.
Where in Game of Thrones is a fantasy, but it takes a lot of the fantasy elements out.
Yeah.
This is a period piece, but it takes a lot of the historical period elements out. And it just says we're going to use the fashion and the time period and worry about that instead.
And there are so many people who, in some ways incorrectly, are like, oh, I wish we lived back in this era because the fashion was so nice and the culture was fun. And it's like, we're still not even at a point where certain aspects of our culture are good for certain groups of people.
No. There's still wide
So
gaps.
this is very much for all the people that are like, I wish we had like Regency society and clothing back or whatever iteration of that you want. It's like, this is how you do it in a fun way.
Yeah, I really, really like it for that.
Yeah.
Because that was something that when I first started watching, I was like, oh, that's really interesting. That's an interesting decision to make. But the more I watched it, the more I was like, that's the decision to make.
And can we talk about, because I know we're going to talk about our joke with Tony Bridges.
I was going to say.
Can we talk about how excellent the casting is for all the Bridgerton siblings?
It's really good.
They really look like a group of siblings.
Yeah.
It's a nice little spectrum of like, a lot of brown hair looking kind of similar.
Yeah, well, like the guys all look the same because they're all about the same height and all have brown hair.
Except the youngest.
Except for Gregory.
Yeah.
But he doesn't count.
Yeah.
He hasn't reached age yet. He doesn't count. No, I do love all three boys. Our ongoing joke is that the three boys are the anti-Chris Christie. They are pro Bridges, and they run the Bridges. So you got Tony Bridges, Tony Bridges,
and Benny Bridges,
and his little brother Benny Bridges, and Big C Bridges.
Big C Bridges.
But
it brings so much joy.
I will never not laugh at Tony Bridges. Yo, Tony Bridges, he's coming in.
And it was so great because I insisted that we watch season 3, and Alfred was very lovely and was like, hey, I'll join. And then he ended up really liking it too.
And then you watched season 1, and I was like, I'll watch this.
And then we were like, hey, let's go back and watch the other 2 seasons. So, like, season 1, they're very much getting on their feet. It's the first book, the very predictable plot with Daphne and her kind of being a damsel in distress, but also kind of finding her way, but also kind of being a dumb woman in this society, but no fault of her own.
Yeah, she's just swept up in everything that's happening.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And I like her story for the whole, like, she went out to do the adult thing, which is what she was always told to do, and then she got there and she went to her mom and she was like, I am woefully unprepared for real life.
I love
How dare you?
I love that conversation she has with her mom, Violet, where they're basically like, she's going to get married, and she goes to her mom and she's like, so wedding night? And her mom is kind of like, oh yeah, it'll be good, but doesn't give her any details
at all.
And so when she has to actually have her wedding night with Hastings, and he's like walking her through the process of having sex, it's like, there are, I think I joked about this at the time, but there are health classes in America less informative than Hastings' explanation of sex.
Yeah. and I like how he kind of, lets her kind of do stuff on her own first, because he kind of like plants the seed of, masturbating. And she tries,
First figuratively, and then literally plants the seed.
But it's like, man, we're still not doing a great job with that, everybody.
Guys, there's still a lot of things we can fix. There's still a lot. Listen, I know you all think that the color of the house is great. There's a lot of elements of the house that are
news
not good. They're real bad.
And that whole season, there's a lot of things in that season that make me very uncomfortable. And one of the things that I is talked about, but not to the extent that I think should be talked about, is the fact, and this is kind of going into season 1 a bit more than I think we anticipated.
That's okay. We're talking about Bridgerton.
There's the whole thing where Duke of Hastings is like, I can't have kids, and Daphne finds out he's lying and he's just pulling out, which is why she hasn't conceived yet. And
real quick, I don't want to interrupt you. Pulling out in the most theatric, unrealistic way I've ever seen.
She's like, "Are you okay?"
I thought he was having a hernia. I was like, "What is going on with this guy?"
Especially because he's making like the sex grunts.
Yeah,
she doesn't know. She doesn't know what the fuck is happening.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's straight up when she, tops him and doesn't let him pull out. That is considered rape.
Yeah.
Like, straight up in like the synopses that I have read, they refer to it as her raping him pretty much.
Which, yeah.
And I think that's a very uncomfortable topic, and I'm curious why they left it in like that.
Yeah. Well,
when the show is trying to be more progressive, it's like, man, you're having your heroine do this.
Yeah, I don't think they see it that way. I think that's why they leave it in.
And this is it's such a double standard.
Yeah,
like I heard about that scene and I was like, oh, that's kind of odd. And then I watched that scene, I was like, this is actually making me really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And not like he's a perfect guy.
No.
He does a ton of controversial shit, and I'm not saying anything either of them does cancels each other out. It's just totally different things that they do to each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how is this season they fall in love and everything's all Gucci? That's how we're ending this? Okay.
She convinces him he does want kids, and so it's fine.
And to be fair, that's also how it is in a lot of these books, because I've read through a lot of the synopses just because I was curious and I wanted to see comparing the book plot lines with the show plot lines. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of not great behavior that is just kind of brushed off in these books.
It's not framed as bad behavior, so we don't have to have a conversation about it being bad behavior.
Yeah. So I do want to go back to season 3 because wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so fun.
I still love the back and forth we had where Benny is gonna go for a 3-way, and we're like, but dude, just give it a try.
And a lot of people had that feeling of like, why do we keep going back to this threesome when we're at like the height of the plot?
That was
literally
the longest
for the main
threesome of all time. That threesome, by filmmaking standards, that threesome lasted like 3 days.
I was gonna say it's either going on for a long time, or they're trying to show the passage of time of like he's leaving and coming back, and they're having more sex, and it's like it is not being established that these are separate instances.
No, it very much feels like it's just one night.
Yeah.
And they just keep on having sex the whole time.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Colin is getting married and life is falling apart.
Yeah. There is one thing that I'm actually really upset they changed in regards to Penelope and Colin's story. Colin is not as upset about finding out she is Whistledown in the books.
Really?
Yeah.
He's pretty chill with it?
I won't say he's like super chill with it. He does try to convince her like, hey, now that we're getting married, you should probably stop. Mm-hmm. Which is, I think, a totally fair thing to desire.
Yeah.
But not like this whole dramatic scene when he finds out and he's like, my outlook on you has totally changed. I can't live with myself. Like, we'll get married, but I'm not going to be happy about it.
I think you tricked me into this.
Yeah. And it's like, dude, you've known this girl for years. You would not have... I get it. You have strong feelings about Whistledown, but come on.
Yeah.
It's your... really?
And especially looking at some of the things she had written about the Bridgertons, you get, like, the sense of, like, it definitely feels like, oh, but there's this, but you know what, I get it though. Oh, but what about that? Oh, but also, it does make sense that she would do that. So like there does seem to be like a push and pull.
Yeah.
Of like when she writes the bash piece about the girl that's pregnant that's trying to trick him into marrying her. That you can read that in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily all altruistic, but it has good intention.
But a lot of the things she writes about the Bridgertons are either, neutral enough that it's not like this is new or stunning information. But the other stuff she writes is only in the interest of protecting them.
Yeah.
Even if it's not necessarily in Eloise, not necessarily in the way they want. Eloise, literally, you had this whole thing where the queen was going to accuse you, and then Penelope wrote a bad piece about you to get her off your back.
Yeah.
Why are you suddenly upset with her about this?
Don't be angry. Be happy.
Yeah.
Go in on the heist.
Yeah.
No, I think that is one of my only real complaints is we rib Eloise a lot, and it's because I find her a little annoying.
Her character really upset me this season.
Yeah. Especially when she decides to go and hang out with Bad Hair, Bad Hat.
Yeah.
Cowper. And it's just like, I've known so many people like you.
I know. I can appreciate from a character development standpoint how they had the whole backstory with Cressida and how her parents wanted to put her in a marriage and like, oh, here's this thing where you can feel sorry for this antagonist. I don't necessarily always want to feel sorry for the antagonist. I think it's okay for me to just want to hate a person.
Sometimes you want to see someone get their comeuppance.
Yeah, and she does. But it's after they establish all that other stuff, and you feel kind of bad that she's getting punished for just trying to stand up for herself by lying.
And ruining other people's lives, and then blackmailing people. I don't know. I think this person pretty much sucks.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I get wanting to give them the out of like, oh, her parents are terrible. But like, how many people in the town have terrible parents?
Yeah.
There's a lot with all of the the entire show is relationships.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I do like about it is you have a ton of relationships, but you never feel lost.
Yeah.
You never have a sense of like, not even in some shows, Acolyte, where you have trouble telling some characters apart at times.
Yeah.
Like when you're watching the Bridgerton boys do their thing, even when I wasn't like the most dedicated watcher, I could still be like, okay, and that's the younger one, and that's the artistic middle one,
right?
And that's the bossy older one, Tony Bridges, who wants to fight everybody.
They're very distinctive, which is really nice.
Yeah, and not just an action, which is like the big thing, is Benjamin acts different than Benedict acts different than Tony Bridges, who acts different than Big C. But like, at the same time, you can also physically tell each of them apart,
which is great,
which is a huge deal. And I think that goes back to what you were saying with the casting. The casting is so well done.
Oh my gosh!
Because like, you can tell them apart, but they do look alike. I think
you can tell their family.
I think Francesca and Daphne. I know Francesca was recast, so there was a little bit of controversy with that.
Yeah,
but I think
this recasting works so well. Though
worked really, really well.
She really looks like that actress who plays Daphne.
Incredibly, almost to a point of like, wow, there's a almost uncanny nature to it.
And the two of them legit look like they could be daughters of the woman who plays Violet.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely.
Yeah. No, I very much enjoyed watching this with you.
Yeah.
I think that it is still one of the horniest shows I've seen in a long time. In a good way.
In such a good way.
In a good way. And not in a Game of Thrones horny, there are just naked people everywhere.
Yeah.
But this is like that kind of like the horniness that the the church going folk don't care for.
Yeah.
The quietly horny.
Well, this was one of those shows when it came out, when the first season dropped, I think in 2020, this was one of those shows where it was like, ooh, they're using intimacy coordinators.
Yeah.
And that was a newer job 4 years ago.
And you get why.
Yeah. And now we've had a few years where like this has been a thing, and they've not only been really effective and more prevalent, but you're really starting to see it pay off.
Yeah. Well, the sex
scenes look so much better.
Yeah, the sex scene between now I'm blanking on both their names, Big C
Colin and
Little P.
Colin and Penelope.
But that was a scene that wasn't just again, it wasn't a Game of Thrones brothel scene. Where it's
Yeah.
like, we have some boring conversational stuff, so we're going to have naked people give it.
It's very soft and tender, and it's really nice.
It's character driven.
It's very cozy.
It's a character driven sex scene, which you don't get a lot of.
Yeah. And it's another example of like, oh, this female character doesn't really know what's going on because no one told her about sex, and the guy is much more experienced.
Yeah.
But the different ways that it kind of goes about happening, so hot.
Yeah.
Oh, Colin is really up there in my favorite characters right now. What a good boy.
What a dashing gentleman
What
he
a
is.
what a good, well-traveled boy.
Yeah. And then you still get great scenes like her getting caught on the way to the printer. Or no, on the way back from the dressmaker.
Yeah.
And they have to have this harsh conversation in the stoop of a store, which turns into making out. Because even after everything, they can't get over each other.
So and he like shields her when they think someone's coming. So hot.
Yeah.
This
is what women like, guys.
This is what we are much more simple than you give us credit for.
Yeah. It's a very fancy painting, but if you look at it long enough, you can figure it out.
Yeah.
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 But that's our show.
That's our show.
That's a good show.
What a great show.
But yeah,
thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Kelly, for coming on.
Yeah.
It was wonderful having you here. We love having you, and
we also just talk for hours in general.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, this is just really, we just turned on the microphones turned off the fan and the TV.
Yeah.
Put up with getting a little sweaty.
We're also using some new equipment.
Yeah.
So we're going to see how this sounds.
This is a nice test run for some new equipment.
If you like how it sounds, drop a comment.
Yeah, please. We need comments. If you want us to watch something, if you want Kelly's opinion on something, if there's something that you think we maligned and missed out on that you think Kelly would have a better opinion on, or if you want to hear what Kelly thinks
on anything else coming up,
Jake Gyllenhaal's Roadhouse performance,
which was so good.
She watched that one too.
Yeah.
But Kelly will be back with more fun stuff, and definitely if you want her on more, let us know and we'll bring her on more.
Where can the people find you?
You can find us at nerdpodgen.com, which links to all the places.
All the places.
Our art is by Kortney Howell.
Amazing.
Our theme song is by Brendan Williams and James Connolly.
Fantastic.
My lovely wife, Kelly, is across from me. Steve Taylor will be back next week. I am Alfred Judson. So we'll be back next week with multiple episodes of The Acolyte and more pain for all you lovely people. This was a nice balm to get through the pain.
I'm so sorry, friends and enemies.
We'll be back later, friends and enemies. But until then, have a great week.
Bye.